You might have heard about Billy Mitchell. He's a professional gamer that held records for Donkey Kong. A few years back, he filed a lawsuit against the YouTuber Karl Jobst. About a week ago, a decision from the court was finally made on who won the case. A lot of people expected this to be a landslide victory for Karl, but in a shocking twist, Billy Mitchell would end up winning the case. A lot of people are upset now because they were misled into believing the lawsuit was about cheating when it in fact wasn't. Is Karl to blame for this, and should Billy Mitchell really have won the case? Let's take a look. What's going on? It's Pojr coming at you with another video. Alright, we're going to be talking about a more serious topic, the situation with Karl Jobst and Billy Mitchell. I do have an alternative take, so stay tuned. Alright, so if you've seen a couple of my videos and you enjoy my content, hit that subscribe button right there. We've been at that 30k number for a little bit now. Let's jump to that 40k. And let me ask you, what is your take on the Karl Jobst situation? Let me know in the comments, or let me know on my Discord server, discord.pojr.net. Anyway, let's get started. Apollo Legend was a YouTuber that made videos about speedruns. His earlier videos mainly showed off highlights and top 10 lists that were related to speedruns. Some of his videos, like the top 10 chokes in speedrunning, would end up being very successful. On December 13th, 2007, he uploaded a video about the top 10 speedrunners who were caught cheating. This would be one of the first times the topic of cheating in speedruns would ever be discussed on YouTube. This would become his most successful video up until this point. He would make a follow-up video exposing the professional gamer Todd Rogers. For those who don't know, he held the world record in the Atari 2600 game Dragster, but there were some red flags. The YouTuber OmniGamer analyzed the game code of Dragster and discovered that Todd's world record was completely impossible. Not only that, but Todd's records in other games didn't make sense. Apollo Legend's video took all the evidence against him and compiled it into a well-done video. Apollo's video did extremely well, to the point where the evidence against Todd was overwhelming and Twin Galaxies had no choice but to remove his records and ban him from the site. There were people behind the scenes that questioned his records, but Apollo's video was the first time it was ever brought up to the mainstream. I had never even heard of the guy until I watched Apollo's video on him. With the success of that video, Apollo Legend published a video questioning another professional gamer. Billy Mitchell had the world record in Donkey Kong and was featured in the movie King of Kong, but there was some question about how the records were achieved. When analyzing his gameplay videos, the startup screens in between each stage appeared to look more like MAME than original hardware, suggesting that Billy Mitchell used an emulator to achieve his records, which is against the rules unless you state that you did so. Like with the Todd Rogers video, this is one of the first times Billy Mitchell's alleged cheating was brought up publicly. Apollo's video did very well, but at a huge cost. Billy Mitchell took notice of the video and sued Apollo Legend for defamation due to the accusation of cheating. For those who don't know, defamation is when you make a false statement about someone that damages their reputation. Initially, Apollo didn't back down. He planned on paying for his own defense, and he started a GoFundMe to countersue. The campaign originally asked for $10,000, but it managed to raise more than double that. Apollo's case against Billy Mitchell, from what I understand, was also for defamation, because according to Apollo, some defamatory comments were made by Billy about other people. Unfortunately for Apollo, he would end up dropping his lawsuit because he didn't believe the case was as rock solid as he originally thought. Shortly after, he announced that he made an agreement with Billy Mitchell and he took down all of his videos related to him. This meant that the lawsuit was off and that Apollo would no longer be talking about Billy Mitchell. Many people were disappointed that Apollo backed down, but I don't blame him for this. This was a $1 million lawsuit. I don't know what his financial situation was, but battling in court can be more expensive than it's worth, especially if you're just trying to live your life and support a family. So Apollo might have been done talking about Billy Mitchell, but there was one YouTuber in the comments section that was not, Karl Jobst. For the record, I've been watching Karl for years, and I think he makes great content. I definitely recommend checking out his channel, and if you enjoy his videos, drop him a subscription. There's no easy way to bring this up, but Apollo would tragically take his own life in 2020. He made a goodbye video shortly before explaining his health issues and childhood trauma. This is one reason I wanted to talk about Apollo Legend in this video, because a lot of people may not know who he is, and I wanted to give him the recognition that he deserves. Karl had a similar YouTube model as Apollo, where he made videos related to speedrunning. He also published his own video about Todd Rogers, where he mentioned a few extra details that Apollo didn't. One of his most popular videos, and the one that I first saw of his, was about a fake Super Mario Bros. Speedrun. The author, Badabun, passed off the run as his own, but he actually spliced together other people's speedruns into one poorly edited video. I always considered Karl's videos to be in a similar format to Apollo Legends, which is a compliment because I enjoyed them. On July 25th, 2020, Karl made a video talking about the Guinness Book of World Records and how they should stay out of gaming. This would be one of the first videos where he talks about Billy Mitchell's alleged cheating. I mention this because in Karl's next video, he mentioned to his audience that Billy sent him a notice to remove that video and to pay him $150,000. However, this was just a notice. Karl wasn't officially being sued. The Guinness video would end up being taken down, although I'm not sure why. It might have had nothing to do with Billy Mitchell for all I know. It's worth mentioning that Karl's videos that were related to Billy Mitchell were performing very well, usually over 1 million views. His audience loved these videos, so I imagine he probably wanted to provide people with the content they wanted to see. To be fair though, he did have videos that were not related to Billy that got over 1 million views. But making more videos about Billy Mitchell could potentially provide more ammunition for a lawsuit. On September 23, 2021, Karl made a video titled "I'm Being Sued and Cancelled," confirming that he was being sued by Billy Mitchell for defamation. He doesn't go into any detail about what Billy was claiming was defamatory, but he does mention that Billy doesn't have much of a reputation and further explains that many people regard him as a cheater and liar. Karl is a bit vague explaining this particular lawsuit, and because he mentioned Billy's alleged cheating, I think people might have thought the lawsuit was about that. To be fair, Karl does explain that it's an ongoing case and therefore he can't reveal too much information. I think it was important for Karl to tell his audience that he was being sued and that he has to be silent about the case. I figured he would stop talking about Billy Mitchell after this point, but he continued making videos about him. I remember being surprised, but most of the videos were not directly related to his lawsuit against Billy Mitchell, they were about Billy's other legal battles. I'm not a legal expert, so I figured Karl maybe knew what he was doing. I know that Karl does YouTube for a living, and his videos about Billy Mitchell normally get a high amount of viewership. Again, as a content creator, it's normal to want to supply the demand, but is it a mistake to keep talking about the person that's suing you? On November 5th, 2022, Karl made a video titled "Billy Mitchell has gone insane and I need your help." According to him, Billy threatened 2 more lawsuits. One of them was related to an older video where Karl covered another story about him. The other was over a meme that he put in one of his previous videos. In response, Karl started a GoFundMe to help pay for his defense. It's understandable why Karl would crowdfund for this because legal expenses are obviously high and it would be difficult for him to take this on alone. All 3 of these cases were for defamation, and we know 2 of them were related to alleged cheating, but that first one Karl still hadn't given us much information about. I think most people who donated probably assumed the legal battles were related to cheating, because at first 2 out of 3 of them actually were. Fortunately for Karl, the last 2 cases would be dropped, so it's only that unknown one that remained. I did want to specify that while Karl did make a handful of Billy Mitchell videos, he had plenty of videos that were not about him. He made a few videos about the completionist and his alleged charity fraud. He's also made some more positive videos like the speedrunner SUED getting the world record in every category in Super Mario 64. I just wanted to make this distinction because it's not like he only talks about Billy Mitchell. Despite Karl being sued in 2021, the trial would not begin until September of 2025, almost 4 years later. Right before the trial, Karl made an update video going over what will happen if he wins or loses. He also brought up whether he will settle and what points he'll be arguing in court. He seemed really confident that he was going to win, but was still vague about what the lawsuit was about. He repeated his claim from an older video about Billy's reputation being poor due to the allegations of cheating. The trial itself wasn't publicly broadcasted that I'm aware of, but the user Ursat'sCats attended it and covered details on their blog, perfectpacman.com. I did want to thank them for their excellent coverage of the trial. Without them, we wouldn't have any details about what happened during the trial, only who won or lost. I also wanted to thank the YouTuber and lawyer Luss, or Law Understood Simply, for their analysis of the trial. Definitely check out some of his videos, and if you like what you see, definitely subscribe. With the trial beginning, many people would learn for the first time what the lawsuit was actually about. It had nothing to do with cheating. It was about a short 30-second segment that Karl made in his video. The biggest con man in video game history strikes again. Here's what he said.
He also sued YouTuber Apollo Legend for $1 million. I haven't spoken about this publicly, but this lawsuit ultimately ended with Apollo giving in and settling with Mitchell. He was forced to remove all of his videos about Mitchell's cheating and paid him a large sum of money. This left him deeply in debt, which required him to find extra work. But with his ongoing health issues, this was all too much of a burden, and he ultimately took his own life. Not that Billy Mitchell would ever care though. In fact, when Billy Mitchell thought Apollo died earlier, he expressed joy at the thought. The lawsuit against Apollo...
The statement had some inaccuracies. According to Billy Mitchell, his settlement with Apollo didn't involve any money. He was seeking damages for Karl insinuating that Billy caused Apollo's death. So yeah, this case had nothing to do with cheating. When hearing Karl talk about Billy Mitchell and his alleged cheating in multiple videos, it was easy to assume his defamation case was about that. To be fair though, there were some hints that gave away what the case was really about. Billy Mitchell would briefly talk about it during his trial against Twin Galaxies back in 2024.
What about Karl Jobst? Why are you suing him?
Karl Jobst has nothing to do with video games. He's being sued because he's blaming the death of an individual, Apollo Legend, on me.
You're suing him for defamation for making that
That's
blame?
correct. Has nothing to do with video games.
Karl also did hint at it in one of his videos.
Billy Mitchell is referring to the YouTuber Apollo Legend, who tragically took his own life in December of 2020. I won't go into specifics about this particular point because it does relate to his ongoing lawsuit against me. But again...
Now that we really know what the case is about, I'm questioning whether Karl really has a shot at winning. Could it be that Billy is in the right here? To give some credit to Karl though, he did retract that segment of the video and he would apologize for making the false statement in a future video. But will that be enough to save him? The trial would end up being 7 days long. I'll summarize how it went. Billy talked about how Karl's claims about Apollo caused him to become physically ill and how he stopped being invited to events. There were some counterclaims that he was in fact invited to events. The cheating accusations and previous lawsuits initiated by Billy Mitchell were brought up to paint him as a liar and someone who uses lawsuits as a way to silence people. The text messages that Billy sent about Apollo's death were brought up, which Billy claimed was just dark humor and he didn't think he was really deceased. Karl's retraction and apology video were brought up and how it didn't seem sincere because it wasn't in a dedicated video but rather an unrelated video that happens to mention Billy Mitchell at the end. It was also brought up that Karl making Billy Mitchell videos could be financially motivated. Some of the colorful language that Karl uses in his videos about Billy were brought up. In general, statements from Karl's videos as well as comments he posted on YouTube were brought up. So that's my synopsis of what I read. Again, I was not there, so don't quote me on any of this. When the trial first started, I was pretty confident this was going to be a slam dunk victory for Karl, but as I kept following the trial day by day, I started to lose confidence. Some of the points that were brought up against Karl were valid. I actually didn't even know Karl made an apology video because the video topic it was in did not interest me. It did seem like the apology was very hidden. Also, I do think that the Billy Mitchell videos he made did hurt his defense a little bit because statements he made in those videos were brought up in court. It might have been better if he had held off on making Billy Mitchell videos until the trial was over. But despite all of that, I was still somewhat confident he would win. When the trial concluded, we wouldn't hear about the results for another 6 months. Karl did update us in a video about the trial and how it went. He didn't seem as confident as he did in his last video about the subject. He said that for his mental health, it was better for him to prepare to lose just in case. I do wonder if maybe he realized that his shot at winning was not as high as he originally thought. Finally, on April 1st, we would see the results, and it would shock many. Not only did Karl lose, but he lost big. He was ordered to pay more than $350,000 in Australian money to Mitchell for causing damage to his reputation. I heard the total amount was even higher than that. This is also when many people found out about what the case was really about. On Twitter, numerous people commented they thought the case was about cheating. Many of his supporters believed that Karl purposely misled his audience into thinking that the lawsuit was about cheating just to get donations. Some even claimed they unsubscribed to him. Karl was definitely upset by the decision, given a few responses he made on Twitter and Discord. On Discord, he made a few questionable statements like this one where he said F lawyers. These comments are obviously cringe, and I imagine he's embarrassed that they've been leaked all over social media. I'm not sure if he's being sincere or just upset about his loss. I do have some empathy for him though. Imagine thinking you're going to win only to have the book thrown at you. He did mention that his next video will be looked over by his lawyers, so maybe he's taking back his previous F lawyers comment. So did Karl purposely mislead his audience? I do think he should have been more transparent about why he was being sued. He should have stated that it was not related to cheating, but Apollo Legend. Not even his GoFundMe explained what the lawsuit was about. Imagine donating to something like this when you don't even know where the money is going towards. But I don't think Karl intentionally misled us. He had the right idea of staying quiet since it was an active lawsuit. I don't believe Karl was trying to scam or mislead anyone, but he should have at least stated why he was being sued. I do think Karl owes us an explanation on why he wasn't transparent about the lawsuit. He did promise to make a video sometime this week, but as of this recording, it has not been uploaded yet. I do think we should allow Karl to explain himself and not immediately write him off as a liar or scammer. Should Billy Mitchell have won this lawsuit? I do think what Karl said was defamatory. I don't think the apology he made was good enough because, like I mentioned before, it wasn't in a dedicated video. So did Karl make mistakes when handling this lawsuit? I'm not a legal expert, but I do think he should have stopped making Billy Mitchell videos. But I can see where he's coming from because those types of videos are in high demand. Of course, you want to give your audience what they want, and this is the type of content they want. I think it was a rock in a hard place. I wanted to make this video because, for one, I thought it would be interesting to explain the situation from beginning to end from the perspective of someone who watched a lot of it unfold. I also think we should allow Karl to explain himself. I do think he can redeem himself and bounce back from this significant loss. Let me know what you think. Should Billy have won this case, and did Karl purposely mislead people? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Hey, I just wanted to thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it this far, hit that like button. If you enjoy this type of content, hit the subscribe button for more content. Both of these things really help the channel grow. If you have anything to share, feel free to leave a comment. I read every single comment on this channel, and I'm pretty good at replying back. Anyway, have a good one.